start off with introducing yourselves, your titles, that stuff?
Hi, I'm Misha Harrison. I work at the University of Arizona as Executive Director for Experience in the Marketing and Brand Management team.
And I'm Chad Herzog. I am the Executive Director of Arizona Arts Live at the University of Arizona and also Associate Vice President of the Arts.
Awesome. So my first thing was, why South by? Like a university at South by. I mean, we know we have talks on science and stuff going throughout, but you all had a whole house that people could stop by and listen to things. So why was that the choice that was made? Like, what was how did that happen?
Well, I think some part of it happened because our CMO had spent a lot of time in Texas and is from Texas, and asked us to do some scouting in 2019. It's like, would South by make sense? So A&M had done it, and we scouted them out and saw it, is this something that would work for us? And I think the piece that we really latched onto and what really we think will work, and I do think has been successful with the Wonder House activation, was that we needed to be in a space with the movers, the shakers, the thought and culture makers of the country, because we knew we could compete on that stage. And I actually think we did pretty darn well, frankly. I mean, people look at us as an educational institution, but they always forget that we're Research One, and we have a lot of tech transfer and, frankly, inventions right, left, and center. And what our scientists do and our culture creators do does change the world. You find that with OSIRIS-REx and NASA trusts us. Transportation, we're huge. Water research, I don't know. I could keep going, so I'll stop.
So when it came to building out the content, because obviously being Tier 1 research is amazing, but also translating research and science to the public is a hard task.
Yeah.
What went into kind of crafting the program that you all would present here?
I think at first glance, we wanted to bring the university to Austin. That was, and so part of that is what are the things that make the university, and part of the university is Southern Arizona, Tucson, special enough to be bringing here to Austin, the South by, that people are going to recognize. Second thing is we wanted to humanize the experience, and we have amazing researchers, educators, scientists at the university, but how can we humanize it so that the general public, or that a public that may not be a space researcher, is going to understand the importance of sending a satellite or a OSIRIS-REx to Bento.
Yeah.
How do we talk about land use in ways that a musician may understand it? And that was all from 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. So we had a team who, looked at the content that we had, and we put challenges to the people who were helping to coordinate from each of our colleges to say, look, we need to talk with our scientists who already have a penchant and maybe a proven ability to speak to the public. But then on top of that had up-and-coming, interesting research or findings or IP transfer, something to that effect that we knew would be effective. And then, we trained and we rehearsed, and every single one of them worked with the speaker coach. Every single one of them had to put forth their idea, and the larger team got a chance to vet them and review and see, is it relevant? Is it future focused? Is it something that the general public would help to understand that no, in fact, we don't live in ivory towers, that what we do actually will affect the future of our country?
I guess for me, do you all have any roadblocks or anything dealing with the university? Because I've tried to put on events before, and they're like, "Yeah, why should we send you to a film festival or a music festival before?"
That was so this is 2.5 years in the making. More than that even, because Misha and others came to South by in 2019. As she said, it was in July of 2019 when members of the university came to scout locations for South by. It was the fall of 2019 when we signed the papers and said this is a go.
Yeah.
But those first few months, it was really selling not only faculty members, but deans and higher senior leadership on why this was important. What does it mean to be at a place like South by Southwest in Austin, where we know that it's not a recruiting event, because that's where people wanted to go with this. When you take the university anywhere, it's, well, how are we going to get 18-year-olds excited?
Right.
We know that that's not the demographic coming here, right? So we had those months, and we all know what happened in March of 2020 when that South by didn't happen. And I think where we were lucky over the last 2 years is being able to refine what that 2020 house was going to be, but really focus more on content and change that up a little bit. I think where we're even luckier right now is leaving Austin this March 2022. We no longer have to sell to the university community why this is important. That those people who were here this week get it, and they will be doing all the selling, cheerleading that we need in the future.
It's awesome.
I'm gonna double check this real quick. It's just because it's like pointed up towards us, so I want to point it up towards them.
Yeah. One of the other things I want to ask, something that I thought was really unique about Wonder House, was actually the stage design, specifically the one in the front room that went all around.
Sure.
What went into kind of building out that space? Because I think the one I sat in there was on climate change and like the historical context, and getting to see a graph that went across a whole wall, like that hit different than just seeing it on a usual PowerPoint. Like, what went into the process of creating that space?
Well, so I think the joy of this whole project was the collaboration between the colleges. So as a university, universities are made up of colleges, and we have over 20 colleges. And so we had 5 key colleges who were distinctly involved in this. One was a College of Fine Arts, and the other was College of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape Architecture. And those 2 colleges were really involved in the structure of the Wonder House from the very beginning. And I had to give a massive shout out, maybe they're both going to kill me, to Joe Klug and to Michael Coffey, who both really helped design. We had many a tough conversation over coffee about how are we going to structure this, understanding that Fogo is a great restaurant, but like they have their market table, which is a giant salad bar in the middle. You can't move it.
Yeah.
It's bolted to the floor and it's totally custom. So how are we going to build this space in a way that it will actually immerse the attendants in, the attendees in the I don't know, in some case, the extreme challenges of the content that we're dealing with. And then working with our production company, TSP, we came to this circular design and the idea of being completely surrounded. And so what does that really mean in real life? And so then we could work with LED panels that went all the way up to the ceiling, as high as we could get them. And then we started with sort of an oval on top of a circle with a circle up above. And then we got more and more circular as we went. So circle on top of circle. And it really fit with the Wonder concept that was actually launching at the same time. Yeah. So it was this really amazing serendipity, frankly, of concepts where we can completely surround, we can do a surroundscape, we can keep the content together. But then the next part about it was, how do you get a scientist to envision what a PowerPoint will look like when they're standing on it?
Yeah.
That took some work. But, we had killer designers helping out. Andrew Scotto did an amazing job. Literally just helping to visualize it. And then one of our visual artists who worked on Stellarscape, which premiered at the Wonder House. It was an hour-long video filming of an in-person production with interactive video and dance and music. And what was great is Devin Bailey, who is the visual artist that helped a great deal with the interactive pieces, he actually built in Maya a 3D piece of here's what it would look like. So we could see, here's what it looks like if this is projected on the left side, or on, I should say, the southwest side, and on the northeast side, and down below. And we could see how all the screens would look. And so it really helped to cement this sense that you will be surrounded by your content. And then it was just a lot of work.
Yeah, and you can imagine you can't rehearse that too. That space, there's only one of those surroundscapes out there, and it's no longer now. So rehearsing that too is part of it, because we don't have a room like that on campus.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of follow up with this, did you all always wanted Fogo de Chao? Was it that just happened to be? Because, I mean, obviously the restaurant, it worked out, it looked fantastic, but, like, it was a restaurant compared to most houses end up being a bar or something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the selection process is pretty intense, right? There's a couple of things that you want to look at. We're a university, so what's the draw, right? So being a university, it's a little bit awkward. People aren't sure what to expect. So we knew that location was going to be critical. So being right across from the convention center, right in the middle of the walking way for all of South by traffic, that I think was our first selection. The second part was that, although this ended up biting us a little bit with our cold weather on Friday, was we love that rooftop.
Yeah.
That rooftop is pretty spectacular, and it ended up working really well for the Entrepreneurs Lounge in the evening and just for people to relax. And plus, we had quite a few talks about the environment and about stressors in the environment or de-stress in the environment, and the ability to look up over Austin really helped enhance that content. So we had a couple of things there, and then Bobo have just they've been great to work with, so that also really helped.
It's awesome.
I think one of the things that I was also interested in was what was kind of, so you mentioned like getting people in the draw of being on that main drag pretty much. But like what was kind of like the marketing behind all of this? Did you have to do much? Because I remember we got an email and I was like, oh, University of Arizona, that's cool. And he was like, oh, I like that place. And I was like, okay, we'll check it out. What was it? And we got it, I think we got it because we were press, but like what was kind of the plan behind getting people in the door?
I mean, I do think that the main draw was the actual design of the space, because we knew that foot traffic was everything. And so by turning Fogo exteriorly into the Wonder House and having the giant best marketing we could have ever done. But then on top of that, we did do the location marketing, which it worked okay. If you had your South by app, you get the notification that it was there. So everybody who had the South by Go could see that we were live and in person there during those 3 days we were there. And then we did some social. We did a lot of direct emailing to lists that we found and called out all kinds of places, because again, this is not our recruiting market, so these are not contacts that we would own normally. And then I would say we did some good social, and we did some good partnering that helped with us, with our social a lot. I mean, the Friday Night Movie podcast, they helped to promote us. Some of the speakers at their circles helped to promote everything. I do think that the airport helped a lot. We did a pretty significant buy at the airport.
Oh, wow.
So we had giant Wonder walls at the airport, so if you came in,
that's cool.
Austin, you knew that Wonder was big in Austin.
Yeah.
To find us. But those were our major pieces. We'll test it and see how it went once we are done with our numbers, and then we'll see if we shift this coming year. For suggestions.
With the wrap, though, it wasn't just covering the space; it was giving peeks into it. So that was something that the designers were very aware of. That we needed all this great content happening inside, but we needed to get you in. So you saw the Wonder wrap, but the word Wonder were actually windows into the house. Having Jessica Gonzalez, the muralist, live painting on the side of the building, again, showing something happening to make a connection with people that hopefully draws others in.
And I think the muralist, that was something, because I remember getting the email, I look for the place with the big mural, and I am like directionally challenged. I've lived here for 12 years. I don't know what street is what. I follow my husband. But I remember all through that weekend, I was like, oh yeah, there's the mural. And watching it kind of like be painted throughout the time there. How did you choose that artist, and did you have input on what was being put up, or did you kind of give them free rein?
We did. So Jessica Gonzalez is the muralist who painted that. She is a graduate of the School of Art at the university, lives in Tucson, has been named Tucson's top muralist a number of years in a row, and has painted not just in Tucson and the Southwest, but murals all around the country. She's somebody that we engaged, again, 2 years ago when we were doing this the first time. She came to us with a few concepts of what we knew what the size was going to be, so we threw that out to her first. That we need this mural that is going to be 12 by 30, which is kind of an odd size for a mural. And she came to us with some concepts, and then we revised those over the course of time, and that's how we got the mural we have. Yeah.
That's awesome. I kind of want to know what kind of went into the content, because obviously there was a variety of different topics, even on the kind of thing, but not only just like the talks themselves and selecting, but you all put like displays of like many like interesting, I don't even what they call them, like video presentations.
Yeah, I watched the black hole one many times,
and so I kind of went into that one. Into that.
Sure. I mean, some of it is a combination in between what we are good at and the tracks that South by has. So we were looking at the combination of the things that we knew we could do well. And space science is one of the things we do well. And here we are in Texas, where there's a big understanding of space science, so we got that in spades. And also that's a track, right? I mean, looking at futures and 2050. So it was like, let's think about what we could talk about that would help people to understand where we're going, which is also a lot of the VR. I mean, we had a 360 opera. Who in the world has ever heard of that?
Yeah.
You know, so like arts and new technology together was also a really strong pull for the whole idea, again, of what the South by audience is looking for and where we as a university are moving with our arts programs. Live and immersive arts is becoming a real thing, and so I think we had a good representation there. The other pieces had to do, again, with either climate science, which we're also very strong in, and water, but then also some of our artists, our digital artists, I mean, what you may not have seen up top. So we had Sama Al-Shaibi's work, and she's a recent Guggenheim Fellow who's a faculty member at the University of Arizona, and her work just plays so well, and it's just beautiful. And then she also reaches, as does Alex Turner's Currents project, the idea of borders. And we live on the border, we work and play on the border, and we understand the intersectionalities that happen there. And we found ways, I believe, to artistically bring that to the fore. So what was really great too is if you look at like Alex Turner's work, he's showing infrared imagery on the border of animals.
Yeah.
And those animals have no recognition whatsoever of border. But he's working with our School of Natural Resources and the Environment scientists there who are studying on the border to understand what the effects of the border are. So in a very subtle way, we're showing that you can actually deal with these political, difficult human matters through art in a complex and intelligent way. Yeah. The other piece that was in there, Ripple Effect by Dorsey Kaufman. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that one, Chad. But...
No, I mean, Dorsey was using art to show pollutants in our waters. And so as you saw, the way that these waters would react and when a bowl, and I'm using the term a bowl, but a platter full of arsenic water, and the way the sensors reacted to it and making these ripples come through versus fluoride versus clean water and all of those. And so how do we use art to tell a story that is a little harder to comprehend or share? I think also, going back to Alex too, is part of his work is working with scientists that are using AI to identify objects. And what happens when AI goes astray? And so they know that on the border, coyotes are crossing, and fox are crossing, and horses, and all kinds of other animals. But what happens when a migrant is crossing and is identified as a coyote? And then it starts playing, because the AI, it starts playing with you a little bit more. And that goes back to between Sama's work, Dorsey's work, Alex's work, but then also the work that we were doing science-wise is what's relevant for today. And in the programming and the content that was here this past weekend, it was really about making sure that everything that was seen was relevant today and moving us forward so that we can be thinking about how our life is changing into the future rather than tipping our hat to the past.
And at the same time, I think we did an amazing job if I can pat our shoulders on this one, on bringing the beauty, because I do think that across the country, it's very hard to understand Tucson, and the impression of the Sonoran Desert isn't accurate by any means. The impression is that it is very dry and brown and unattractive, and the reality is we have more biomes than you will find pretty much anywhere else on the planet. We have a tremendous amount of flora and fauna of all different kinds, going from the ground level up to the 10,000 feet in the Catalinas. And we have sky islands. Our monsoons are exquisite. And so we were able to immerse people in the monsoons in the surroundscape with Michael Blinsky's work. We were able to show the color of just sitting and spending a day up at the top of the Catalinas and watching the sun rise in the middle of the day and watching it set, but through painting, through Hunter Lose's work. And then at the same time, we were able to bring the music of Tucson, the Zeek set, which was just, I don't know, I danced a lot.
And I think one of my last questions is really, what was the importance of including like Q&As and everything? Because one of the things that I noticed, especially with the panels that we attended, was the audience was asking questions that was very forward going as well. Like, okay, I heard this talk, now what do I do next? Or what do we do next? And it was like the talks themselves, as you said, like brought the content to hear it, but the Q&A section really allowed the presenters to kind of dig in really deep onto the future of what we can do. So how did y'all decide to do that? Because I assume it'd be easy to be like, okay, here's our schedule. We keep it on schedule. Next panel.
And I'll just jump in and say, if we didn't have that part of it, why come here at all?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite was Monica Ramirez Andreola, who actually is the scientist who is behind the art exhibit that Dorsey did for the water. And one of my favorite parts is, because my Spanish is terrible, is she had an audience member asking her about water quality and dealing with it on her own, completely in Spanish, and they had this great back and forth, and it was beautiful. But I think where we think about the entire goal and the benefit of our faculty being here and our scientists being here was that the point is connection.
Yeah.
We're here, sure, to be thought leaders, but to connect, first and foremost. And if every one of them was able to walk away with a person, whether that be an individual just looking for more information, a policymaker, if at all possible, or a fellow scientist working at a university here or working in the private industry, you make that one great contact, this was worth it.
Yeah.
I guess you kind of touched on it in this last question, but I just kind of want to find out from you all, what was you all's favorite, discussion?
Oh, that's nuts.
I know there were so many. I didn't get to attend all of them, but every one I did was great. So I want to know what you all's favorite was.
So I don't have children, but I learned very early never to ask anyone who their favorite kid was.
Oh yeah,
and that's how I ended it.
Yeah, you're gonna get us in trouble.
Yeah,
you have to mute this part.
Yeah, you can beep it all out from here on.
Cool. That's all I had.
I guess for me, is there anything? Where does Wonder House go from here?
Bigger, better next year. I do think that the University of Arizona is excited to be at South by to stay.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, the president of the university announced on a campus briefing on Monday that next year will be bigger and better at the Wonder House.
That's amazing.
I'm excited. I really enjoyed y'all's show. I'm glad what the University of Arizona brought here.
Fantastic. And if y'all have ideas, we're interested in